Alyssa Burkett was a young woman full of promise. Born in Texas, Alyssa grew up in a tight-knit family where she was known for her vibrant personality and deep love for those closest to her. She was hardworking, determined, and dedicated to carving out a better future for herself and her daughter. Alyssa's life revolved around her daughter, Willow, whom she described as her greatest joy and purpose. Friends and family recall Alyssa's unwavering resolve to provide a safe and loving home for Willow despite the challenges life threw her way. Alyssa met Andrew Beard in her early 20s. At first, their relationship appeared typical, marked by moments of happiness and the shared excitement of becoming parents. However, as time passed, cracks began to form. Andrew's behavior became increasingly controlling, and their relationship dissolved shortly after Willow's birth. While Alyssa embraced her new role as a single mother with determination, the separation triggered an ongoing legal battle over custody, which would eventually turn her life into a nightmare. Despite her personal struggles, Alyssa worked hard to maintain stability. She took a job managing a title company, which gave her the flexibility to care for her daughter while pursuing a career. Her colleagues admired her drive and positive outlook, and she developed a reputation as someone who persevered even in the face of adversity. Her relationship with Andrew, however, remained strained. The custody dispute over Willow was fraught with tension, with both parties clashing over their roles as parents. Alyssa's friends noted that she often felt intimidated by Andrew, whose actions hinted at a darker, more manipulative side. Still, Alyssa focused on creating a happy home for Willow, determined to shield her daughter from the emotional toll of the custody battle. Unbeknownst to Alyssa, her commitment to raising Willow and moving on with her life would eventually put her in grave danger. As the custody dispute escalated, so did Andrew's resentment, setting the stage for a series of events that would end in tragedy. The custody battle over Willow began shortly after Alyssa Burkett and Andrew Beard ended their relationship. While many separations lead to disputes over parenting time, the conflict between Alyssa and Andrew quickly escalated into an emotionally charged legal struggle. Alyssa sought primary custody, citing her role as Willow's primary caregiver. Andrew, on the other hand, pushed for greater control, claiming that shared custody would allow him to remain actively involved in his daughter's life. The court proceedings were far from amicable. Alyssa described Andrew as unpredictable and manipulative, often accusing him of using intimidation tactics to gain the upper hand. She told friends that Andrew's focus seemed less about Willow's well-being and more about control, both over her life and her parenting decisions. This custody battle consumed much of Alyssa's time and energy, forcing her to balance the demands of work, motherhood, and court appearances. Alyssa's concerns extended beyond the courtroom. She confided in friends and family that she felt unsafe due to Andrew's behavior. At times, she claimed he would make veiled threats or attempt to provoke her during custody exchanges. These interactions left her feeling on edge as she struggled to maintain composure for the sake of her daughter. Despite these challenges, Alyssa remained determined to protect Willow. In court documents, she presented evidence of her ability to provide a stable and nurturing environment. She highlighted her consistent employment, close relationship with her daughter, and active role in Willow's development. Meanwhile, Andrew countered by portraying Alyssa as overly controlling and uncooperative, a claim she firmly denied. Adding to the tension was the fact that Andrew had recently become engaged to Holly and Elkins, a woman eager to play a significant role in Willow's life. Alyssa viewed Holly's involvement as intrusive, particularly when it became clear that Holly had opinions about the custody arrangement. Friends of Alyssa noted that she felt cornered, battling not just Andrew but also his new partner, whose presence only amplified the pressure. Andrew Beard, once described as soft-spoken and reserved, presented an outward image of a committed father determined to maintain his role in his daughter Willow's life. However, beneath this facade, there were signs of his darker nature, an individual deeply troubled by control and resentment. As his custody battle with Alyssa Burkett dragged on, Andrew's frustration grew. He reportedly saw Alyssa's resistance as an affront to his authority and became consumed with anger over what he believed was her deliberate attempt to cut him out of their daughter's life. In the midst of the custody fight, Andrew met Holly Elkins. Holly was a single mother herself, and the two quickly bonded over their shared experiences as parents. Their relationship progressed rapidly, and Holly became a prominent figure in Andrew's life. She soon made it clear that she wanted to help him gain custody of Willow. In fact, Holly's devotion to Andrew extended beyond the typical role of a supportive partner. She appeared to see herself as a potential maternal figure for Willow, further inflaming the already contentious custody dispute. Holly's presence in Andrew's life was not without controversy. Friends and family noted that she often inserted herself into the custody proceedings, offering unsolicited advice and even accompanying Andrew to court. Holly's involvement intensified Alyssa's distrust of Andrew, as she worried about Holly's motivations and the influence she might exert over her ex-partner. Alyssa confided in her close circle that Holly seemed overly eager to take on a motherly role, even though Alyssa was fully present in her daughter's life. Behind closed doors, Andrew and Holly discussed strategies to gain custody of Willow. According to later testimony and evidence, their conversations often centered on Alyssa, whom they both viewed as an obstacle. Holly allegedly encouraged Andrew to fight harder, going so far as to suggest that Alyssa was unfit to care for Willow. Together, they began to concoct plans that went far beyond legal avenues, delving into manipulation and outright deceit. Andrew's growing reliance on Holly's support blurred the lines between his custody fight and a calculated campaign against Alyssa. As their partnership strengthened, so did their shared resentment of the woman who stood between them and the life they envisioned. The couple's fixation on Alyssa signaled the beginning of a chain of events that would lead to an unimaginable crime. It began subtly, with Alyssa noticing unusual behavior from Andrew. At first, it was minor disruptions, delayed custody exchanges, cryptic comments meant to unsettle her, and arguments over trivial matters. However, the tactics soon became far more invasive. Alyssa began to suspect that someone was watching her every move. Her suspicions were confirmed when a GPS tracker was discovered hidden on her vehicle. She believed Andrew had planted it, a claim that would later be supported by evidence. During the investigation, the tracker was only the beginning. Alyssa's co-workers at the title company she managed began noticing signs of her distress. She shared stories of feeling followed and receiving anonymous, harassing messages. While she couldn't prove Andrew's direct involvement at the time, Alyssa believed he was orchestrating these efforts to make her feel unsafe and vulnerable. Her fears grew as it became apparent that this wasn't a random act of harassment, it was a deliberate strategy to push her to the brink. Alyssa's car became a frequent target. On one occasion, she discovered drugs and a firearm placed inside her vehicle, items she insisted did not belong to her. She immediately contacted the police to report the incident, fearing that someone was trying to set her up for a crime she didn't commit. Her suspicions were validated when investigators uncovered communications that pointed to Andrew and his fiancée, Holly Elkin, as the perpetrators of the scheme. It appeared that the pair had staged this setup in an attempt to paint Alyssa as unfit and untrustworthy, hoping it would bolster Andrew's case for custody. False police reports also became a weapon in this campaign. Alyssa found herself the subject of multiple complaints filed against her, alleging reckless behavior and substance abuse, claims that were entirely fabricated. These accusations placed her under tremendous stress as she fought to prove her innocence while maintaining her focus on raising Willow. Each false report was another attempt to tarnish her reputation and undermine her standing in court. This ongoing harassment left Alyssa feeling isolated and terrified. She shared her experiences with close friends, who urged her to stay vigilant. Despite their support, Alyssa struggled to find a sense of security, knowing that Andrew and Holly's efforts to destabilize her life showed no signs of stopping. She installed security cameras at her home and became increasingly cautious in her daily routines, but the sense of being targeted never left her. The plot began to take shape in the weeks leading up to October 2020. Evidence later revealed that Andrew had started purchasing items that would play a key role in the crime. Surveillance footage and store receipts documented his acquisition of a fake beard, dark clothing, gloves, and other materials to be used as a disguise. Investigators would later uncover chilling internet searches on his devices, including topics related to evading detection and carrying out violent attacks. Holly, too, was deeply involved in the planning. Communications between her and Andrew indicated that she actively encouraged him to follow through with his intentions, offering suggestions and reinforcing his belief that Alyssa was an obstacle standing in the way of their happiness. Text messages and phone records painted a picture of a couple united by a singular, horrific goal: to ensure Alyssa could no longer interfere with their lives or their plans for Willow. Andrew's preparations also extended to securing the weapon he would use in the attack. He obtained a handgun, which he intended to use as part of the meticulously crafted ambush to ensure Alyssa could not survive the encounter. Andrew planned to use additional methods to ensure her death, leaving no room for error. In the days leading up to October 2, 2020, Andrew conducted surveillance on Alyssa, observing her routines and identifying potential opportunities to strike. He focused on her workplace, a location he knew would be difficult for her to avoid. Alyssa, unaware of the danger that loomed, continued her daily life, doing her best to navigate the harassment while staying focused on her responsibilities as a mother and professional. On the morning of October 2nd, Andrew put his plan into action. Disguised and armed, he made his way to Alyssa's workplace. His attire was carefully chosen to obscure his identity, with a fake beard and gloves ensuring that he would leave behind as little evidence as possible. Witnesses later described a masked figure lurking near the scene, their behavior strange but not immediately alarming. Andrew's attack was swift and brutal. As Alyssa arrived at work, he ambushed her in the parking lot, shooting her in the head. When it became clear that she had not died from the gunshot, Andrew resorted to a knife, stabbing her repeatedly. The sheer violence of the attack underscored his determination to ensure Alyssa could not survive. Witnesses and co-workers, alerted by the commotion, rushed to the scene but were too late to intervene. Andrew fled, leaving behind a trail of devastation and a community in shock. In the immediate aftermath, investigators worked to piece together what had happened. Surveillance footage, forensic evidence, and witness statements would eventually lead them to Andrew and Holly, uncovering the intricate plot they had devised to rid themselves of Alyssa. The murder, though shocking in its brutality, was the culmination of months of planning and a reflection of the lengths to which Andrew and Holly were willing to go to achieve their goals. The murder of Alyssa Burkett set in motion a comprehensive investigation led by law enforcement in Carrollton, Texas. Detectives immediately recognized the complexity of the case, as the crime appeared premeditated and methodically executed. The brazen nature of the attack, coupled with the public location and visible evidence, gave investigators a strong starting point. They were determined to uncover the truth and bring Alyssa's killer to justice. Surveillance footage from the parking lot provided the first significant lead. The grainy video captured a disguised figure approaching Alyssa. Though their identity was initially obscured by a fake beard and dark clothing, the vehicle used by the assailant was also identified, giving police a key piece of evidence to track. As detectives reviewed the footage and interviewed witnesses, one name quickly rose to the top of their list: Andrew Beard. Andrew's motive was clear. His contentious custody battle with Alyssa, combined with the escalating harassment campaign against her, made him the prime suspect. Detectives began piecing together a timeline of his movements on the day of the murder, scrutinizing his phone records, digital footprint, and recent purchases. Receipts uncovered during the investigation revealed that Andrew had bought the disguise items and weapons used in the attack, further implicating him in the crime. As they delved deeper, investigators discovered the extent of Andrew's preparation. GPS data linked him to the scene of the crime, and his internet search history showed disturbing queries related to disguises, violent acts, and evading law enforcement. Detectives also uncovered communication between Andrew and his fiancée, Holly Elkins, which hinted at her potential involvement. Text messages revealed discussions about Alyssa, some of which suggested that Holly had encouraged Andrew's violent intentions. Forensic evidence played a critical role in the investigation. DNA from the disguise items discarded near the crime scene matched Andrew, and ballistics analysis confirmed that the gun used in the attack was one he had acquired in the weeks prior. Combined with eyewitness accounts and his known animosity toward Alyssa, the evidence against Andrew quickly became overwhelming. Holly's involvement also came under scrutiny as investigators uncovered her role in the harassment campaign. While her exact level of participation in the murder remained unclear at first, her connection to Andrew and her support of his actions raised red flags. Police worked to determine whether she had actively helped plan the crime or if her encouragement had emboldened Andrew to act. The investigation moved swiftly, with law enforcement building a strong case against Andrew and Holly. Within days, he was arrested and charged, marking the first step toward seeking justice for Alyssa. Andrew faced multiple charges, including capital murder. Prosecutors presented a case built on a mountain of evidence: surveillance footage, forensic analysis, and Andrew's digital trail. The prosecution argued that the murder was not a spontaneous act but the culmination of months of planning. They described Andrew's obsession with gaining custody of his daughter and the escalating harassment campaign against Alyssa as evidence of his intent. The chilling preparation, the disguise, the weapons, and the surveillance painted a picture of a man driven by control and revenge. Key witnesses included law enforcement officers, forensic experts, and Alyssa's friends and family. The trial also delved into Holly Elkins' involvement. Text messages between the couple showed that Holly was fully aware of Andrew's actions and, at times, encouraged his attempts to harm Alyssa, either psychologically or physically. This evidence left many questioning whether her role should have led to harsher charges. Andrew's defense team attempted to argue for mitigating circumstances, claiming that his actions stemmed from emotional distress related to the custody battle. They also tried to downplay the extent of Holly's involvement, suggesting that her words and actions were not directly tied to the murder. However, these arguments were overshadowed by the overwhelming evidence against Andrew, which left little room for doubt. In the end, the jury returned a guilty verdict. Andrew was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The severity of the punishment reflected the premeditated and brutal nature of the crime, as well as the devastating impact on Alyssa's family and friends. For Holly Elkins, the legal consequences were less severe. She faced charges related to her role in the harassment campaign and received a lesser sentence, which many observers viewed as insufficient given the gravity of her involvement. Her release date became a point of contention, sparking debates about accountability and justice in cases involving accomplices to violent crimes. The conclusion of the trial brought a measure of closure for Alyssa's loved ones, though the pain of her loss remained immeasurable. While justice was served in the courtroom, the verdicts could never undo the devastating impact of Andrew and Holly's actions.